Energy has millions of customers, and we use it to power our entire backend as well as our support site that all of our ops team uses to interact with customers and electricity meters and all that. But you gain a lot of power for full stack applications by decoupling the front end from the back end. So having a separate framework between the front end and the back end, because that allows you your back end to stay the same, but your front end can be in a bunch of different frameworks. Like if you have React for your website, you have you have a mobile app on iOS, a mobile app on Android. Those can all be done independently of the back end without getting some huge monolithic, unobtainable mess of code. And the Django REST framework provides a lot of tools for building a Django backend that provides a RESTful API to those external applications or to front-end applications. So that just means, it has built-in ways to enable easy get, put, post, delete methods, and easy ways to turn Django ORM models into JSON instead of HTML so that they're interpretable by other frameworks or other climate. So building a Django app with the Django REST framework still provides the same functionality you've seen from previous full stack Django apps. So to get started, let's see if I can share my screen or if I'm going to have to restart. So the I shared the wrong screen. So the docs are located at www.django-rest-framework. Can you all see that? Super useful. There's a quick tutorial that's slightly different than we're going to walk through today, but has a lot of the same elements. And then they have the API guide that talks about the power is really with these generic views. They're going to make you question all the work you did yesterday to come up with serializers and views, because they make it very straightforward and offload a lot of the work to the Django REST framework. So django-restframework.org is where the documentation is located. So let's take a look at the wine API. So let's make a new directory, wine API for our project. Change into that directory. And then let's create our virtual environment. I think that's right. It's the right syntax for a virtual environment, right? Activate, not active. I guess the third time is the charm.
Source.
Yes.
Thank you. The third time was not in fact the charm. Now you do the like the coding interview challenges, and it's super hard to. I don't think I need the activate to that.
No, it should be source.
Just .bnv.bin.activate.
Yeah.
In my defense, my virtual environment stays active all the time on my work computer. So
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Why are you using the .bnv? I've seen it. I actually have Vincent's books, but I don't understand why.
So the dot makes it a hidden folder, so you don't see it in Finder. It's just a matter of personal preference. like functionally, it doesn't do anything the same, except when you're looking at the folder, it won't appear unless you reveal like hidden files or folders.
Okay.
So that's just the way I learned it. So
is there a benefit to that?
Other than like aesthetics, not that I'm aware of. Tom, is there a benefit to making the .vnv hidden?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
Because you would still have to, it's still something that you would need to include like in your git ignore.
Yeah,
Instead of a VNV,
yeah.
you would include a .env
Yeah,
or
exactly.
.vnv. Okay.
Exactly. So downloaded Django, we downloaded PsychoPG so we can use a Postgres database. Let's create our project. They won't take dashes with. Okay, and let's create our app. What did you all call the app yesterday? Was it just wines or something along those lines?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, let's open that folder in VS Code. So the next step should be go into our settings and add our installed app, which is, excuse me. And then let's go ahead and create a database, a Postgres database. And we'll go ahead and add that to our configuration. Excuse me, sorry. Let's go ahead and create some models. So models.model, and then I think we have like a name, right? For a name at 50, I don't think there are any name lines with longer than 50 characters in the name, are there? And a varietal. Not super familiar with wine. Can someone tell me what a varietal is? Is that like
The type of grape.
Pinot Noir or Moscato or those kind of things?
It's the type of grape used to make the wine.
So what would be some types of grapes?
So wait, my description of red and blend wasn't descriptive enough.
He asked for the specific definition.
No, I know.
That's a Marine Corps varietal description, I think.
Purple, red.
No, those are types of crayons.
Oh,
Yummy.
Or Kool-Aid flavors.
please tell me there's another Marine in the class to stand up for you, Tom. Or is this just the abuse that you take every day?
Oh no, I embrace the suck.
Jump in there,
Embrace
Juan.
We're too busy eating
I like
crayons.
crayons. I don't know.
Hey Sean, I noticed in your dunder string method, you have that like skinny arrow pointing to a str. What does that do?
So this right here tells you the return type of the function. So this tells me that the string is this function is going to return a string. So this is a convention we use a lot in our code base, just because for type checking to avoid errors where you get back in it you were expecting a string, because you have automatic type checkers that can look for that and tell you that the function is not returning what you expect it to return.
The
type checker itself's not enforceable though, right? Like by default, it's just letting you know what to expect.
It depends. Like, so for my company, we use MyPy, and if you don't pass the MyPy, which is a type checker, if you don't pass the MyPy type checks, you're not going to pass the Circle CI check, so your code's not going to be mergeable. So it depends on the settings that whatever
Okay, so
you're used.
it
Go
is,
ahead.
but it's not like inherent to actual like Python. Like if you weren't using MyPy, Python itself doesn't enforce that.
Right, Python
Okay.
is dynamically typed,
Yeah.
like any variable can be assigned to anything. But yeah, it's an library on top of Python that does the type checking enforcement. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
So let's go ahead and add our model to our admin panel so that we can interact with it and add some lines. I will need, because I'm not very good at typing apparently, and also coming up with, I don't know a lot about wine. Okay, so I think the next step is to make migrations, right? We have our model created, and make migrations, and then we will migrate. And then we will create a super user so we can log into the admin panel and add some lines. We create super user. That, nope. Super not secure password. Okay. Now we will run server.
At what point would you want to change your not secure password when you deploy it?
If it's going to be external facing, you don't. Well, first of all, the recommendation is that you don't use the generic route for admin. So it's not like, you know, your site name /admin, because there are like automated like web scrapers that hackers use to look for like frameworks built in admin panels. And yeah, so I wouldn't deploy it with that password, but because it's only on my local host, don't have a big, it shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, there's a lot that should go into security before.
So if I deploy it to Heroku, just take the admin route out altogether.
Or change it to a different path, so it'd be like a different name, or just like shut down your Heroku app when you're not using it. Okay, so who's a wine expert? So someone tell me a wine. Doesn't like Francis Ford Coppola's daughter have a wine? Call that one a red 9. I don't know any red grapes, so we'll just call it red grapes. Tasty. A hint of bitterness. I don't say it's rating of 7 and add another. And then we'll say white. 20. And slightly sweet. So that's a rating of 4. I don't know what the rating scale is because it's just an integer, but we'll say this one has a rating of 4. And the last one is a blend. I don't even know that that's a thing, but we'll say it's $2 and it's red and white. Not a blend of the same kind of grapes because that would make too much sense. Not great. That one has a rating of 1. Okay, so you see now we have 3 wines in our database. So now what we're going to look at is how we set up the Django REST framework to basically automate the creation of our APIs. So the first thing we need to do is to install the Django REST framework. So pip install Django REST framework. Okay, and then we need to add the REST framework to our settings.py. To our installed apps. This is REST_framework. Okay. So the first thing we'll look at after this is our routes. So starting with the project routes. So in our urls.py, get rid of all this. We'll just say, and we'll need to use include. Call it wine, so wines.urls. Save that. And then we need to add our route to our apps. So we'll need to make a urls.py for our apps, our wines app. Okay, so here it is. And we'll come, so just to start, so actually I skipped a step. We'll need to create our views first because that'll determine our URLs. So we'll leave this empty for now. So before we can do our views though, we need to define some serializers. So this is handled by the Django REST framework for the most part.
You want to take your S out of URL patterns? Is that right?
The URLs S. Yes, you are correct. Thank you for catching that. So we need to create a serial or touch serializers.py. And then we need to create a serializer for our wine class. So the REST framework has built-in serializers, which will, all you got to do is tell it which fields you want and what the model is, and it will automatically convert those fields into JSON. So we need the REST framework serializers. We also need our models, and then we'll call it class wines serializer. And we want to, from the REST framework, grab the model serializer. Then all we need to specify is a meta class with the fields. So what were our fields again? I think there was, we'll include ID because that's a built-in primary key. And then we had name, price,
Varietal.
Description rate, and then we had a rating. And then we'll say we have to tell what model we're using. So models.wine. It's called, do we call them model wines or wine? We call it wine. So just call this wine. Okay, so that's it for the serializer. That'll automatically serialize all the fields that you specify here. So they're available for the view and convert them to JSON. So let's do our views next. So I don't think we need that. We do need from the REST framework, import generics. So the REST framework has a whole bunch of built-in there's a whole bunch of built-in views. So you get these generic views that you can inherit from. And so basically you can create an API to list all of the models. You can create APIs to just retrieve an object from the database, destroy, update, retrieve, update, retrieve, destroy, retrieve, update, destroy. So basically we can look at a list of all the wines, and then for individual wines, we can, either retrieve them or do all of the get, put, post, and delete operations on them. But we need our serializers to do that, so we'll import wine serializer. We also need our model. So we'll go ahead and define two classes. One, list. So we just want a master list of all the wines. So we'll inherit from generics. And we want to use the list API view. So that'll just give us a list of everything that was in our serializer for all the wines that are in our database. So we need to tell it where to grab those from. So wine.objects.all will grab all the wines in our database. And then we need to tell it what serializer to use. We just want to use the wine serializer. But we also want to be able to look at individual wines. So we'll have a detail view. And for now, we'll come back and look at this. We just want to use the retrieve API view. So that'll just allow us to retrieve individual wines. We'll come back and revisit how to do retrieve, update, destroy. But query set will be the same. And it will know which wine to grab based on the URL specifying the primary key. We'll look at that in a second. We just want to use our wine serializer again. Okay, so now that we have views, we have serializers, we want to go back into our app wines and set up our URLs. So we'll specify two. One at the root, we'll just do wine list.
Can you zoom in a little?
Yes, I absolutely can. If I can find my plus key. Is that better, or would you like me to zoom in more?
That's fine, thank you.
Okay. And then we'll need to import our from .views, import wine detail and wine list. Okay, so that's the list of wines. We also want to be able to retrieve individual wines. So we'll just tell, and this is the syntax that Django knows. So that'll be the primary key for whatever the field is. So it'll look up a wine by its primary key. And then we want wine detail dot view. Okay, so that should be enough to give us an API that we can look at and interact with Postman. So let's go ahead and start our server again. Oh, I'm in the wrong direction. There we go. Let's go ahead and go to our API. And you can see it automatically generates the list of wines that we put in earlier. It's got the ID, the name, the price, varietal, description, rating. So if we want to look at the white, we're just going to add the primary key for the white into our URL, and it should come up with a wine detail. And you can see the only option we have right now is to get. So, I mean, that's some functionality like Tom talked about at the beginning. Sometimes you just want to expose the ability to retrieve things only. But if we want to give like the full RESTful functionality, we need to use the retrieve, update, destroy API view in our views for details. So let's go back into our views and change the generic we use for wine detail. And save. And wait for it to reload. And I made a typo. Okay, so now it should be a little different. When we go into wine detail, we should see some more functionality. So now we can delete and we can update wine. So let's say we want to bump up our rating. We changed our opinion of the red. It's gone up to a 9. And now its rating is a 9. Let's say we want to go back and we're not interested in keeping any information about this blend. It wasn't that great. So we want to delete it. We can delete it. If we go back to our list of wines, it should be gone. So see, now we just have a red and a white. We can interact with this with Postman as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Have you all been using Postman at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say we want to get our list of wines. So it's just going to be, let's say URL. So the local host URL on port 8000. Should then see it sends back the list of wines. Let's say we want wine number 1. We can get wine number 1. And you get a lot of the same functionality if we were to, you know, get post, put, delete, all the traditional RESTful APIs that you see. What questions do you have about the Django REST framework before we take a look at deploying it to Heroku?
You probably don't want to get into this too deep, but what's testing look like with this framework?
So there are built-in methods in Django where you can simulate API calls. So like I know in PyTest and probably in unit test as well, you can basically send API calls to Django in the test framework and verify that the response is what you get. So it's relatively straightforward once you know the syntax. What other questions do you have? Or are we ready to take a look at deploying this to Heroku?
So we essentially just make a post, put, delete request to that same URL, and it just handles everything. We don't do the /delete, /new or anything like that.
I'm not sure how the semantics work, Tom. If you want to talk more about that, I don't remember. I think it is a GET request or a.
Yeah. Can you go to your URLs in your wine API?
Yep. In the, yeah.
Include API /wines. And then in your other URLs.
Yep.
Okay. I was just curious. Cool.
Yeah, so I think we can look at what functionality like this retrieve, update, destroy API view uses. If we wanted to delve into that. So yeah, it's sending the GET request, a put, patch, delete. I think patch is starting to replace post maybe as the preferred HTTP call. I can't speak to why, but. Okay, do you all want to take a break or you want to, it's going to take probably 5-10 minutes to deploy it to Heroku. Or you want me to go ahead and walk through deploying the app to Heroku?
Let's go ahead and take a 8-minute break. Beckett's